At Trinity Skin and Beauty, we believe in making you feel your best. Whether you're looking to smooth, refresh, or rejuvenate, we offer expert waxing and luxurious facials tailored just for you. Experience our signature facials that hydrate, brighten, and nourish your skin. Feel the stress melt away with every touch. Say goodbye to unwanted hair with our quick, professional waxing services, leaving you smooth and confident. Relax, revive, rejuvenate. Visit Trinity Skin and Beauty today, where beauty meets relaxation. Call Calandra today at 601-953-9476 and book your appointment. And oh yeah, tell them Sonia sent you.
She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia and welcome back to She Say Sports. Please welcome back financial advisor, best-selling author, and former Ole Miss Lady Rebels star, Dr. Tywanna Smith.
Yay.
What's
Hi.
up, Aurora? I love that sweater.
Yeah, you see me representing this morning.
Absolutely. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Excited to just continue to do this amazing work. So I'm excited to talk to you today.
Absolutely. And thank you again. Well, shoot, it's almost 2 weeks since we saw each other at my inaugural Women's Sports Summit. It was
and
was
kudos.
amazing.
If you were not there, you missed a treat. It was amazing and the empowering atmosphere in the room. And I want to take my hat off to you. I'm very excited for what you're building.
Thank you so much. It was amazing. The perfect women for that summit. It was perfect. You ladies did an awesome job. So we're going to go ahead and get started because I know you got to get on the road. But this topic I wanted to talk about today because we just finished the NCAA women and men's tournament. Both of them was a boohoo for me. Oh my gosh, it was crazy, especially that men's game, bananas. But I wanted to talk about NIL deals because a lot of the players, Paige Beckers, Aziz Fudd, we're having a lot of these student athletes dealing with NIL deals and lots of money. So I wanted to talk about that, how they can save, how they can budget, what to do after college. So let's get into it. So Doc, can you explain what an NIL deal is and how it affects a student athlete's financial situation?
Yeah, so NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. And essentially it allows student athletes to do something we weren't able to do when I was in school, which is to profit and really protect their brand, right? And not allow other individuals or organizations to make money by using their name or their face or their pictures because of the brand that they build in athletics and touching so many people. Previously, other folks have been able to monetize that, right? And so now these new laws allow student athletes to hold themselves out as stars, right? And really make money from that. And it is really groundbreaking, just a lot going on.
Yeah, it is very groundbreaking. What are unique budget challenges student athletes face when they start earning income from NIL deals? I'm sure a lot.
Yeah, I really go back to, I created a financial literacy curriculum for teens that we've been able to work with young athletes before they get there and exposing them to these life skills topics, right? And so from a budgeting perspective, considering the short-term nature of this financial windfall, right? Because you got kids getting millions of dollars. You got some getting hundreds of thousands, some just getting hundreds. But it's still money that can be unpredictable and that you have to fulfill certain requirements to maintain. And because of that, when you're dealing with student athletes who aren't developed, the discipline isn't there, the processes, and they've never been exposed to that for many of them, it's a challenge to get them to see the short-lived nature of it, which puts more pressure on them to manage it properly. And I always suggest, coming from a needs perspective, right? Because you see them buying the cars and all these things that a normal college student most likely doesn't do, right? So it's a
Right.
challenge, I think, at times to get them to realize how short lived it is and the responsibility that they have to think of the future when they're saving and investing money.
Absolutely. So, Doc, and you were a student athlete, so kind of put yourself in this, if you will, if you were able to get the NIL deal, how does a student athlete balance their financial obligations with the demands of their academic and athletic responsibilities? That's a lot.
The people around you are important, right? You have to have
Mhm.
a team. And it's really funny because all the things that I've done for almost 20 years at the pro level, from
Mhm.
finding partnership and endorsement opportunities, managing finances, and everything that comes with that for professionals who only have to play, you now have collegiate students on top of
Right.
going to class and all those requirements, practice, all the things where they have this very structured day and
Mhm.
agenda. You also got to manage everything that comes with this, right? Earning the money, managing the money. What bank do I choose, and where am I going to save the money? Where do I invest? Taxes, right, which is a really big deal, and educating them on how to
Mhm.
prepare the tax outlay here. Um, so I don't think there's a way for athletes to do this properly when you get to a certain level of income
Mhm.
without having a team. And that's at the pro level and the collegiate level as well. The other benefit of this is having people who have this expertise and they can add value, right? Because sometimes we take it as if they get the NIL money and they already should know, right? Like when you're at that level, you should
No.
know what to do with it. And that's not true. How will they? They're students, they're young adults. This is the time of their lives where they are going through trial and error with money. So it's a challenge, and I don't think it can be done properly without support.
Right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely. So, given that the NIL deals may provide irregular or inconsistent income, how would you help a student athlete budget for both short-term and long-term financial needs?
Yeah, and it's got to be needs based, right?
Mhm.
You of course give them room to splurge, right?
Yes.
But with some restraints. And what I typically would do when I first started out with my rookies is create this reward system. And I may have talked about this
Mhm.
on a previous podcast, but essentially you earn your way into this, and
Mhm.
that's when you get to spend and you get some of the other prizes as a reward for your hard work and discipline, instead of allowing them to do that out the gate, right? That
Right.
way you have some constraints around the splurge, and you still have things in place for the long term, right? The beyond
Right.
college, right? Because
Mhm.
you may not go pro, and we're seeing players stay in college longer for this reason, because you're able to make money in ways that you weren't before. So it's more lucrative to stay than to go.
Right.
But I think you've got to have some restraints around what you're doing, budgeting on a weekly, a monthly basis, but still allowing yourself to spend in some areas as a reward for your hard work.
And speaking of that, staying student athletes staying in college, what was a young lady that decided to stay last week? And Coach Foster, she put it on her post, and we were talking about it. What do you know who I'm talking
Was it
about?
the
And we
young
were,
lady from Notre Dame,
yes. And
Olivia
so
Miles? Yeah,
I'm wondering if she's staying for the NIL or just it could be
I'm
both.
sure. I'm sure, even more so on the women's side, right? Like the men's
Hmm.
side, you
That's
have
true.
the prospect of making that type of money at the pro level if you're an
Correct.
elite player, right? But for women, okay,
It's not
if
the
you can make
same.
millions in college, which is beginning to, but it doesn't always translate over at the pro level from an
Right.
endorsement perspective, right? Like we're getting there. Why would you come out? And probably also considering draft class, the other players
Hmm.
coming out in her position and all of that. But why would you come out when you can continue to earn that type of money and refine your game?
That's true. Angel Reese, I think she was making $800,000 when she was in school, and
Yeah.
her salary in the WNBA was like 77,000. But she had
Yeah.
endorsements
She
still,
was able
so
to.
her name. So, but everybody's not an Angel or a Caitlin,
Correct.
So that was probably smart on her part, money wise.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, 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 you good.
Yeah. If a student athlete is earning money from multiple NIL deals, how would you structure their budget to track different streams of income effectively?
This is where the team comes into place, right? Where
Mhm.
you have bookkeepers, you have individuals, that's their job, right?
Mhm.
Um, you got to think about it too. Like these kids have multiple NIL deals in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
right? Like they're making
Mhm.
money. I think I spoke at a conference last year, and there was a kid in the HBCU realm who had over 100 deals,
Wow.
like 100 deals, right? How in the world do you track and keep all of that without people who are paid to do that for a living from an accounting perspective, as well, that you can kind of see? And you should do that and do some type of data analysis so you understand what's going on. Many students
Mhm.
are doing that, right? They just see the money coming in and they're fine. But even some deals may be short term, some deals may be long term, some deals
Mhm.
may be commission only. And so I think that's where the professionals who are the numbers folks, right? As a financial planner, that's an element of what I do. But I'm thinking more bookkeeping CPAs, right? You have got to have someone key on your team who has experience working with sports and athletes, right? Because should
Okay.
this translate to the next level, right? And the different taxes, the job tax, and all the different things in the different states, they need to be prepared for that. And I have worked with clients who come to me at the pro level, like, listen, I got this letter from the IRS, and then they got a CPA, but the CPA or their accountant, they've never worked with athletes. And so it's a challenge for them to understand some of those
Mm.
special rules that apply to the way they earn money. So bookkeeping is key here.
So, Doc, you said one student had 100 deals. I'm trying to understand because they have to promote this stuff. So, how do
Yeah.
you even have time to do all of that? And I know, like you said, some of them are short lived. It may be a 90-day. I don't know, but how are they? I'm not. I'm asking a rhetorical question because it's like, how are you doing that? It's just like that amazes me. a
Well, that
hundred.
was my question actually when I heard him speak about this in the audience. And I'm like, and we had a conversation afterwards. And he has a full team, just like a pro athlete, right? He's got an
Wow.
agent to help book the deals. He has a marketing firm that helps to promote and organize those deals and helps him fulfill his requirements to them. So if you've
Mhm.
got to create content, if you got to film commercials and videos and all that, he talked about having to wake up at 4:30 every morning, and he's often going to bed around 9 or 10. Now, that brings into account another topic around kind of mental health with all of this, right?
Yeah.
Is the money enough? And in some ways, I sort of advocate against this free open access in some ways without the proper educational channels and some balance. Okay. Because
Yeah.
money doesn't solve the mental health problem. Like what I mean, you pay people to help you treat it. But oftentimes it just brings additional stress
Mhm.
around the experience from this perspective, the time demands. So he struggles with it, and he was very transparent about that. But it requires a team and people just kind of making sure you're doing the things you need to do to fulfill your obligations.
I hope he is well. I'm so glad that we did not grow up in this type of environment. Oh my
Listen,
God. I'm so glad. I mean,
a
I'm
lot.
thankful for because technology is amazing, but then it can be a curse. And
And
it's just, that's a
yeah,
lot. Wow. Bless him.
yeah, like a
Um,
good job.
huh? It's like
Like
a,
a
yeah.
full-time job. It is.
And, and you being an athlete, because I was not an athlete, I just love sports. So, with you being a former athlete, do you would you have wanted to be in this environment with the NIL deal? Because, and before you answer that question, and I've said this on several shows for years, I'm the NIL deal. I don't really like sometimes because it takes away the love and the passion for the game for the students. You're not a kid. You now you got a job almost. It's just like enjoy being a kid. But would you rather have been in this environment with NIL deals, or did you like what you experienced? Or
As it currently stands, I'm not sure. But again, I think it would depend on what side of the coin I'm speaking from, right? Like if I was
okay,
making billions, we'll figure it out. But
your mom and dad was like, "Girl."
Listen, what we got to do? I mean, we'll figure it out. But
Right.
I do think it adds a lot of elements that make this developmental life milestone, being in college
Yeah.
for a student
Mhm.
athlete, difficult to navigate. And as you mentioned, it can sort of rob you of the joy of just playing. I
Right.
think it's one reason, too, that's led to a lot of the transfer portal activity we have, where a lot of these decisions are made basically on money. And then the next decision to move to another school is based on an improper fit, because you didn't properly vet the situation to see
Correct.
if it's a good fit for you, because you were looking at the money. And
Mhm.
while you're paid at the end of the day, you're still stressed with mental health
You're
issues.
unhappy.
You're not happy. And when you
Right.
look back on this experience, there are so many things that made us who we are from just the experience of
Right.
being a broke college student. It's some things I had to
It was
learn
amazing.
and figure out that I don't know I would have gotten that experience by having so much money thrown at me. So now they could have thrown me a little bit, but
Yeah. But you know
yeah,
what? And I'm cool with the NIL deal if they give them stipends,
yes,
monthly money, and then put most of the money like in a trust fund. So when they
yes,
leave, because
you
everybody's not going to go to the pros just to have something. But I know some of them need the money because a lot of the they're inner
in their
city kids and
situations.
they're struggling. They need the money, so I get it. I understand that portion, but I like you're not happy. It's just a lot. I hate the transport portal too. I don't like none of it really, but again, I'm not an athlete. I'm just looking at it
No,
from an emotional side.
you have athletes, coaches, people in this space who feel the exact same way,
Yeah,
that it dilutes the beauty of the game
it
in many
does.
aspects. And it teaches the kid, if you don't like it, you can just leave. You don't get that option on this side of the ball, right? In real life. Like sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and your ability to stick and persevere and work through certain things are the things that catapult you to these executive levels and to the freedom that is really the flex, right? And the goal,
Correct.
right? Right now, you
Mhm.
still are kind of, you have to do certain things. You're scared. You have to do these things, or else, okay? And if you don't learn to deal with that properly, you're gonna struggle on the other side in life, because you will be put in those situations. So, my argument here is that they have the access, but the student athletes bear all the risk. And so
Yeah,
without guardrails, that's where we see the problems when it
that's where
comes
we
to
see the problem.
learning how to manage the money and these opportunities.
Real quick, and we're going to move on. Keisha Shelby, who was also on the panel with you a couple of weeks ago, she's a education tutor coordinator for University of Texas Longhorns. She said on the show, she was on my show a few months ago, it's going to get to a point because of the NIL deal, grades not going to even matter anymore. It's going to be all
Yeah.
about the money, and I hate that.
In
I
some
really
ways it
do.
already is that way. We're just
Yeah.
kind of, we're in this experiment though, right? And so
Mhm.
you won't really see the impact of some of these very fast moving decisions we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years related to NIL until
Mhm.
years down the road. When these kids are currently playing and getting a check, and not thinking about academics. And in many ways, some of these kids weren't thinking about academics anyway, right? And whatever needed to be done to
Mhm.
make them eligible was being done.
Right.
But they won't feel it until they're gone. And it's really hard to kind of, connect their psyche to the current moment and the impact of these current decisions on their future
Right.
situation. But I can see that
Amazing.
happening because they're being treated like pros. I mean, you got teams bringing in GMs of
Yeah.
their programs and teams, right? So
Amazing. Amazing. Coach, Doc, how should a student athlete balance saving for future goals like post graduation with the need to manage current living expenses?
yeah, in their budget, I'm a firm believer in systems, right? And
Hmm.
so once they determine what they need to survive, from food, travel, maybe you have family obligations and those expenses related to you, being on that campus or your apartment, your living, whatever, right?
Hmm.
Once they realize what they need and they give themselves some buffer, right, to play around with, okay, everything else, right, should be put into vehicles that both preserve and grow. Okay. And this is a part of the discipline aspect that I frequently see with rookies, where sometimes you need protection from yourself, right?
Hmm.
So if I'm looking at getting, I know I got, 250K coming this month, and that it's easy to kind of get lost in the sauce and not keep track of certain things. But it's
Right.
the system that saves you from yourself. It's the system that gives you the discipline that you need to be successful. So when you code from the ground up, this is what I need. This is kind of something I can play with. Everything else outside of that should be put in places while you're saving and investing, you're learning. That's the problem I have. There isn't any
Right.
honest on the institutions, which are educational institutions, to have systems to teach them the skills while they're giving them the money. So you've got to
Mhm.
have, and maybe that's, a 20-80 when you're 20% that you're utilizing,
Mhm.
80% you're putting up. That may sound low to some people, but when you're talking millions or hundreds of
I'm
thousands
telling
for
you,
students, that's more than enough money, I
that's
think, for
more
you to
than enough.
figure. So
I
yeah, you get
totally
a
agree.
system in place. Yeah.
Absolutely. Last question. What would be your advice for a student athlete to manage the uncertainty of NIL deals in case, I'm sorry, a deal doesn't perform as expected or future earnings are delayed?
Yeah. Um, so I would say that they focus on the skill of entrepreneurship, right? The
Hmm.
skill is the thing that's going to make them money. Okay. Um, if you're learning how to maximize your brand, connect with people, promote yourself, and secure deals, right? Because essentially that's what you're doing. You can use those skills at any point in your life. When that NIL money stops, you have now kicked into, and you're an entrepreneur as well. So you understand some of the
Hmm.
things that you learn by going through that experience of building and promoting your brand. That's how you take true ownership. If you're just getting paid because of the platform you've built as an athlete, okay, you're putting yourself in a very risky situation because it's hard. You're not going to be able to play forever, right? And you can't
Hmm.
duplicate that. But if you focus on the skill, and so that's kind of my suggestion. Enter into entrepreneurship because that's really what you're doing, but really take it seriously so you can learn the skills that will, move you forward in that next phase of your life. And then you can always figure ways to earn revenue.
Awesome. Awesome. That was great. Thank you so much for joining me today with that very, very important information. I hope student athletes check this out and their parents because it's so important to know this is huge. So, and it has been for some years now. But before we go, we play a game called What You Know.
She
Let's
said,
go.
she
Let's just play.
said,
Let's get
So
it.
we're gonna do NCAA tournament
she
um,
said, she
trivia.
said,
I think
Okay.
you were you part of it. Were you a part of one of the tournament, the Sweet 16?
Yeah. Well, I didn't go to
Okay.
the 16. I did play in the tournament though.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. So, how many team participants in the NCAA tournament? Is it 40, 33, 2, or 68?
68.
Correct. What is the term used when a lower seeded team defeats a higher seeded team? Is it a letdown, upset, better team, or not good?
Upset. Upset.
Which famous NBA superstar led the North Carolina Tar Heels to a national championship in 1982? Was it James Worthy, Sam Perkins, Michael Jordan, or Patrick Ewing?
Let's say 1982.
Mm-hmm. James
I don't.
Worthy, Sam Perkins,
Was
Michael
it
Jordan,
James
or Patrick
Worthy?
Ewing?
It wasn't Michael Jordan. I don't think. Was it James Worthy?
Yes, it was Michael Jordan.
Was it Michael Jordan 82? Oh
Yes,
Lord, that's the
that's when I fell in
year.
love with him. That's when I fell in love with him. I was 12. Yes,
Oh my
1980. Well, I
gosh,
was
how did I know
11.
that? I'm an MJ fan. How did I not know that? Okay, Michael Jordan.
Well,
I got
what was
that.
I confused you because I had Sam and James. They're on the team with him, so that's what confused me.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. Which university has won the most NCAA men's basketball championships? Is it North Carolina, Duke, Michigan, or UCLA?
I'm gonna say North Carolina.
UCLA.
Really?
They have won the
Okay.
most NCAA men's championship. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What is the lowest seed to ever win the NCAA tournament? Was it Villanova, Purdue, George Mason, or Mississippi State?
Repeat your question.
What is the lowest seed to ever win the NCAA tournament? Was it Villanova, Purdue, George Mason, or Mississippi State?
To win the whole tournament?
The lowest seed to ever win.
I'm going to say Purdue.
It was actually, and they're tied. Villanova won. They were number 8 seed in 1985, and George Mason was number 8 in 2006.
And they won?
Both of them.
Won a tournament game.
Yeah.
Okay, but they didn't win. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Which school has made the most Final Four appearances? Is it Duke, North Carolina, UCLA, or UConn?
Final Four appearances, Duke?
No, yuck. North Carolina.
I'm struggling today. Okay.
No, you knew it. You got it confused with the other ones. They have the most Final Four appearances.
Okay.
Last one. Who is the only coach to win both on NCAA and NBA championships? Was it Phil Jackson, Mike Kay, Sam Perkins, or Larry Brown?
Larry Brown?
Correct.
She ended on the note. I was like, I'm struggling today.
I love it. Doc, thank you so much for joining me. Tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media as well as buy your book.
Yes, connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Dr. Tywanna Smith, and visit my website, www.tywannasmith.com.
All right. And guys, you can follow me at She Say Sports on Facebook, She Say Sports 23 on Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Say Sports. Well, that's our show for today. Until next time, this is Sonia and Dr. Tywanna Smith, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Thank you.
She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports.